session. Afternoon is a bit difficult, but still I will request all the trainers to keep their phones away and start taking their notes out and start taking notes.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. I think this has been a really long session. So I can see many of the faces that too after a lunch. It's not easy. But at the outset, what would want to tell you all is why we are doing this. See, I think almost all of you have done Hajj before. So you know many of the aspects of Hajj already. But I think the importance of each detail will come to play while the actual Hajj is happening. So imagine a Haji who has gone all the way from India, from some village, and he is waiting for a bus. And he is not sure if the bus will come or not. So, like Amin sir explained in the morning, that there can be a delay of 2 hours sometimes. Or in some other areas, like in Mashayar, when the movement is happening from your accommodation to Mina, it will take one whole night, more than 12 hours. So, a Haji might get ready and wait for the bus and still not see the bus. So each and every information that you pass on to Haji, it will play in their mind when they are doing the actual Hajj. So it will give them a hope that this is how things are. They'll have a realistic understanding of the thing. So it is very critical that you pass on that hope to all the pilgrims. And another thing that I want to tell you is that, so though you all have done Hajj in the previous years, as you understand, the Saudi system is evolving. Like my consul general just now explained to you, there is a new card, that is Nusuk card. So these informations keeps coming. And even this year, there can be new additional regulation. So in this age where everybody is glued to your phones, as I can see even now, so like you have a lot of information from different sources. And it is not very easy to fact check each and every information. There can be misleading information. There can be information planted by someone. So, to know what is right and what is wrong is very important. So, this is one place where you can get all the official information. And if at all there is something which is not covered here, you can always get back to us and get clarity on that. So, without waiting further, I'd get on to my presentation. So broadly, I'll cover these aspects. One is CGI Jeddah's administrative structure and key guidelines for Hajj 2025 pilgrim. So I'll try to not repeat the things that is. ठीक है ना? Now, so I'll basically cover these main aspects. One, the administrative structure of CGI Jeddah, and some of these aspects are already covered. I try to avoid repetition and only say whichever is relevant and which is not already said. So before we move on, I want to give you a glance of the scale of operation. Some of the officials who have already spoken said that this is Government of India's one of the largest logistical exercise outside of India. So to imagine the scale of it, I have some pointers for you. As you can see, there are 175,000 pilgrims. Then there are mainly 4 ministries involved, and of course Hajj Committee of India. And from the KSA authorities, like Saudi Arabia, there are several authorities, different ministries, different service providers. And second thing, you can see the services that we provide and the logistics of it. So that you can just imagine the scale of it. You can see 486 buildings, 14,000 accommodation units, 600 plus buses, 2 lakh, more than 2,50,000 baggages transported, 470 flights, etc. etc. I can go on and go on. But you can see in a glimpse what this whole exercise is about. Moving on, preparing for Hajj. One of the most important things that I wanted to tell you is now moving forward, when the flight schedules are out, each and every pilgrim will be communicated of his date of departure. So, one thing you have to understand is that when Hajj committee tells you this is the date of departure of a particular pilgrim, it means that his visa is taken. So, once the visa is taken, it means that all his logistical arrangements are done. Only after that, Saudi authorities will issue a visa. It means that his accommodation in Makkah, Medina, his service provider, bus transportation, everything is set. So, once it is set, what you have to understand is that if you don't go by that flight, if for some reason, if you are not able to go by that flight, and if you take a different flight, you land in Saudi, you go to a different accommodation which is not registered in your name, you take a different transportation. So it complicates a lot of things. So Saudi authorities may ask you to deboard a bus in between, saying that your visa status says that it's a different uh, transportation that you have to take. So it complicates further. We try to resolve these issues, but you can understand in a foreign country, in a family of three, if one person has to deboard the bus, the kind of mental agony that he will face is huge, especially in a land where they don't have any previous experience. It will be tremendous. So, adherence to the schedule given by Hajj committee is of paramount importance. You may see that most of you must say that I have seen Hajj in the past 20 years. This issue has never happened. Every time Haji goes, they doesn't face an issue. But this is not the case today. Today things have changed, and digitally everything is set. So if you change those schedules, it is going to have a huge impact. So one thing I'd like to request you all is that in case if there is something urgent, medical or very important family functions, you should let the pilgrims should let the Hajj committee know well in advance and make sure that their schedule is done in a manner that it it should not be changed later. As you know, most of us like do international travels, and there the percentage of people who actually misses the flight or once you book the tickets, and Indians are known for value for money, right? Once I book a ticket, then what are the chances that I am going to change that ticket? It's very minuscule. Like amongst us, if I have taken like 100 ticket maybe once, it's the chances are very less. But as we can see, when it comes to Hajj, many a time pilgrims think that okay, if it is not this flight, I'll go by next flight. So I have the option because it's charter flight. There are too many flights available. But this is not the case. So please tell pilgrims because I am explaining to you because I have seen last year because of some issues, the issues faced by the pilgrims on the ground. So to avoid this, I would recommend you all to please let the pilgrim know that adhering to the flight schedule is of paramount importance. Then already these aspects were discussed. Uh, Preparing baggage, then walking endurance, general health, and people who are using wheelchairs regularly, they should of course be accompanied by an able-bodied companion, and they should, if they have some particular requirement, they should bring their own wheelchairs. Otherwise, in Saudi also, through our branches, we do give wheelchairs on the basis of a small deposit. And another important factor, learning to use phone and apps. So, like when the pilgrims started arriving, I happened to visit some of the buildings. So, like over the years, fortunately, the connectivity has quite improved, and everybody is carrying a mobile device also. But the issue that I have seen is most of the time the parents are traveling alone. The elderly pilgrims, they travel alone without their children most of the time. They all think that, okay, my father or mother is going abroad for the first time, so I should give them a phone. And they give them a phone. But do we actually train them to use that? Is a different question, because sometimes it is not easy. But I'm telling you, small things like, I remember a pilgrim who is known to me got stranded in Arafat. And I just asked her one thing: can you please send your live location? He's having internet facility, he's having WhatsApp, everything, but she's not able to send live location. And to also make you understand the scale of it, that lady was not alone. She was with a group of 30 pilgrims. Within a group of 30 pilgrims, none of them knew how to send their current location. So that is the level of sometimes to some of the pilgrims, though we take it for granted. People who travel outside and people who have seen take it for granted that sending a location is a very small thing. Most of our people would know it, but that is not the case. Even if they have the device, they may not know how to send current location. They may not know even to activate Wi-Fi. They may not know how to activate the SIM card. So these basic things should be taught very well, and it should be, they should actually do it couple of times and ensure before they enter into the main stages of Hajj. So next. So by now you have seen many officials here. Some of them have joined virtually, and like there are too many things happening. There are so many ministries, and what exactly is the administrative structure? So as you can see, like in almost most of the countries, we have our embassies and consulates, and in the consulate, CGI Jeddah is peculiar that it is handling Hajj operations as well. So the structure of Consulate General of India Jeddah pertaining to Hajj is Consul General heads the consulate, and there is a Hajj division. Consulate Hajj heads a Hajj division, and during Hajj time, there is a Makkah in charge and a Medina in charge, and there is staff with CGI. So basic functions of CGI is to report from ground what are the conditions in Saudi Arabia, what are the new services, what are the new regulations, and liaison with the local government, and help Ministry of Minority Affairs, which is the nodal agency for conducting the Hajj, have a smooth operations, give inputs, implement some of it. So these are the basic things that CGI Jeddah does. And as you can see, with the scale of operations that we have, a small team of consulate cannot manage the entire Hajj operation. That is why we have deputationists from India who basically mans each and every section of the Hajj departments. So this does not cover the medical uh, coordinators, doctors, and paramedics. That will be covered separately. So here you can see the assistant Hajj officer, or Hajj officer, as it will be called in the coming year, and Hajj superintendents, which used to be known as Hajj assistants. So this is the structure, and you can see these are the various desks in Makkah and Medina. And though I can go on and on about all these desks, but what I would want you to take away is the main important thing which is relevant to the pilgrims. As you can see, already Consul General has explained that branch officers, this is the most critical point of contact for a pilgrim. So sometimes we say that branch office is like your police station or village office, for whatever reasons, that most of the issues that you have, you go there and you raise the issue there. Because branch offices will be having connect with all other desks. So in case you misplace your baggage, or your baggage is lost in transit, you can like going to misplaced baggage cell. Instead of that, you go to the branch will check with the misplaced baggage cell, it will check with the other teams and update you and help you in tracing the baggage. Then there are other several things like information desk. I'll come to that in detail later. Then for example, general welfare desk. So in case the pilgrim loses the money or their bag, there is a small allowance that is given by the Hajj mission. which is not a very huge amount, but just for sustenance, if that person cannot afford that. So in that case, usually general welfare does takes care of it. But again, they can always approach the branch as their primary point of contact. Then moving on, this is the most critical slide, I would say. One thing, if you want to take away from this session, that will be this slide. So, if a pilgrim is having any issue, how do they address that? There are three mechanisms that have been identified. The first one is Haj Suvidha app. We'll have a detailed presentation about Haj Suvidha app now after this session. So, I'm not going into the details of that. Then there is Indian Mission helplines. So, these are basically there are toll-free numbers, mobile numbers, WhatsApp, and other like normal complaint registering mechanisms. And the third one, and which is very important, but many times our pilgrims doesn't use, very hardly pilgrims use this helpline, which is the Saudi helpline, which is 1966. Like hundreds for police, right? In India, it's like 1966 is the Hajj helpline. So if you have any issues, for example, your Nusuka didn't arrive on time, you can of course raise the issue with us. Also, you can register the issue with Saudi authorities. That is through this helpline. Or if there is a service provider, if a service provider, Maktab Muallim, whatever you call it. So if they are not cooperating, if there is some issue from their side, if in Mashayar the food is not provided. So in these situations, you can always register the complaint in 1966 helpline. Then what happened was till last year, the Hajj missions were not allowed to use this helpline directly. So when we call them and ask them like to raise a complaint on behalf of the pilgrims, they usually say that no, the pilgrim should directly approach the helpline for Hajj mission. This is not the route. Because we want to try all possible ways to resolve any issue. So it is very important that, and good thing is that it has also different languages. It covers major Indian languages like Urdu, Hindi, and a few other southern languages also. So these are the primary points of contact for the pilgrim to register grievances. Then, if they feel that the issue is not solved or it is not addressed properly, then they should approach the state Hajj inspectors, commonly known as Khadimul Hujjaj, so that they will also take up the matter with the concerned authorities because they will also be trained on how to deal with these situations. Then finally, branch offices, Medina or in Makkah and Medina, and camp office in Mashaya region, which is in Mina mainly. So the pilgrims can directly approach these centers or with the help of state Hajj inspectors, especially in the unfortunate event of death or health related issues or some major issues. They can always approach these point of contact. They will further coordinate with other branches, other desks, and help the pilgrim with that particular issue. So this is one thing that many pilgrims say towards the end. But I have not seen my muallim. I've been here for the past 40 days. I have not seen the muallim. So one thing that we have to understand is that what exactly is uh, this muallim. So as you know, earlier it used to be called as tawafa companies. Now the Saudi government does not use this term anymore. Tawafa company, muallim, all these things are not used anymore. So basically, service provider company is a proper nomenclature for this institution now. So they are actually, in Saudi, if you know about Saudi, there is something called kafala system, right? Once you go to Saudi under the sponsorship of someone, your entire thing is his responsibility. Your medical issue, getting you a permit, getting you anything, a work permit, everything is the responsibility of your kafi. This not similar, but like what service provider company do is that the pilgrims that come to Saudi is the responsibility of service provider companies. And all these service provider companies are registered and licensed by the Saudi authorities to serve a certain number of pilgrims. So, if so, only those service provider companies can serve the pilgrims. And you can see some of the points that they are responsible for organizing the entire journey. They provide guidance. They are the one who is responsible for the movement of pilgrims between various places like Makkah, Medina, from Makkah to Mashar region, Mina, Arafat, Muzdalifah. They are the one who arrange the tents, put beds on it, then arrange the catering there. So all these are the responsibility of Tawafa companies. And they also have added responsibility of Nusuk card, distribution of train tickets. We also help them in distributing these things. But from the Saudi perspective, they are the responsible people for all these activities. And also, in case of if there is any unfortunate legal issues or hospitalization, then like already mentioned, all these issues also are addressed by the service provider company. This is just a structure of a service provider company. So you can see it is divided into branch. So each branch will have 10,000, which is not very relevant for pilgrims. From the pilgrims perspective, the most relevant thing is the service center. So service centers, which now it is called service center. This used to be called as maktabs, and it used to be headed by a muallim. Because as you know, the earlier like muallims used to come and take pilgrims, and then they go. So they were like the head of. So this is now more like a corporate structure where they are the head of one particular service center. So mostly service center is like a camp. You know, in you must have while doing Hajj, you must have seen camp number 40, camp number 39, camp number 80. So these are now service center, so and so number. So these service centers are actually directly responsible, which is under a broader umbrella of Tawafa company. So I don't have to explain it to you further. I just included this so that it will be useful for you once you get this. We will forward the presentation for you so that you can also translate into your own language and present it in front of pilgrims. So basically, this is to give you an idea of like basically pilgrims, because I believe that most of you already have an idea of what is the distance and what are the things that I'm not going into details of it. And as you know, half of the pilgrims usually, almost half of them arrive in Jeddah and half of them arrive in Medina. So they take a different route. So now there is another added change which has happened last year. So till last year, most of our pilgrims were only using Hajj terminal. But now, from the Saudi side, some of the airlines are preferring to take Terminal 1. So it has its own advantages and disadvantages, but I'm not going into that detail, but I'll tell you the major difference what is there. If a pilgrim is landing in Hajj terminal after the immigration process, in both the places, the pilgrim need not take his check-in baggage. So very important. In both the terminals, as of now, till last year, we were able to fairly manage this, which is we have tried to implement this pilgrims without their check-in baggage luggage. So in both the places, pilgrim need not take their check-in baggage because they need not wait in near the conveyor belt for the baggage to arrive. They can straight away after the immigration pass. Next, most important thing, in no case, pilgrim should leave their hand baggage. You know, it is 50 degrees Celsius, 45 degrees Celsius. So the pilgrim, if he takes the handbag and go to some guy and say that, what should I do with him? In the heat of the moment, he'll say that just, yalla, yalla. But you have to tell the pilgrim that in no case, because we have seen in the past that sometimes pilgrims give their handbag also with the other baggage, check-in baggage, and it gets lost in transit. So it is very important that nobody can ask pilgrim for their hand baggage. So in no case the pilgrim should leave their hand baggage behind. And usually in Hajj terminal they are taken to a holding area. holding area will be approximately the size of this folder. So there'll be some kiosk where SIM cards are given. So they will have that some time in between to freshen up and take those SIM cards and activate it on their own. Then, but if there is also an office come dispensary in Jeddah that we operate. There are of course Saudi infrastructure also there. Doctors, ambulances are also present. We also run a very minimal setup there. And then in Terminal 1, there are there are chances for two things. Either the pilgrim will have to take a train, which is high speed train, or they will have to take buses. So if they are taking trains, they go to the railway station, which is in walking distance. It is part of the same complex of Terminal 1. If you have gone to Terminal 1 recently, you will know that. So the Harmain high speed Harmain train is located within the Terminal 1. So they may either use that, and from the terminal they will be taken to the Makkah railway station, from Makkah railway station to the accommodation. Or if they are using buses, they will be taken directly to the accommodation. So these are the two routes. And in Terminal 1, the issue is that most of the time, like the kiosk for these mobile SIM card activation is not placed at the waiting area. They have dedicated places. So usually we don't recommend or we don't allow in a way for the pilgrims to go out of the main group and do something in the airport in order to ensure that all pilgrims are safe and they travel together. So in that case, uh, once they reach Makkah, there will be many kiosks. They will get enough time to buy a new SIM card, activate it. So that's it. So coming back to Nusuk card, which we have already mentioned about. So what happens is this Nusuk card contains, as you can see, the QR code. Once you scan the QR code, it contains all the information related to a pilgrim, most of it, like which is the code number. And also you have to understand that that code number may not be same as the building number which is given by Hajj committee. That is for the Saudi authorities. Because we do simple numbering so that the pilgrims understand easily. So it is basically the contract numbers will be there. Their tents in Mina will be there. So some of those informations will be there, which is what I said. When we take the visa itself, these informations are crystallized into this card. And this is also a type of a souvenir that the pilgrims can take home and keep it with them as a memory for their Hajj. So it is very important that for them also, like in future, this can be used as a very good souvenir because it's also very durable. The card that they give is usually very durable. So and service provider is primarily responsible for giving out the Nusu card. So what happens usually is that when a pilgrim is not carrying the Nusu card, usually the police they try to scan their photos. So if a pilgrim goes and if he's not wearing the Nusu card, because inside Makkah, either he should be a resident or he should have a sorry. Either they should be a resident in Makkah or they should have a permit to enter Makkah. Nobody else can enter Makkah. So if a police spot a pilgrim, the first thing he will ask is for his residence ID or a special permit or citizenship, of course. If none of this is there, then it is assumed that he should be a Haji because even Umrah is stopped during the main Hajj period. So if he is a pilgrim, he has to produce the Nusuk card. If that Nusuk card is not with him, the next thing that the police will do is that he'll try to scan the face of the pilgrim. And you know best, when you scan the face, many a times there can be small changes in the facial features. So many a times that device will not read the face. Or if the uploaded photo is old, then in that case also the device won't read the face. So then they will assume that you are an illegal pilgrim or your credentials are not matched. So you can be taken to a different place. But imagine if you have to undergo this ordeal for like 5-6 hours, it will affect you mentally and it will affect your pilgrimage experience as a whole. So it is very important that the pilgrims should carry the Nusuk card with them always, especially when going to Haram area. Next, after the pilgrims arrive in Makkah, they are given at that reception when they enter the building. They are given food by Muallim. Then for first Umrah, they are guided by the Muallim. But you have to understand that for first Umrah, all the pilgrims will go to their room. Then they will come back. But if you come back after taking all the rest after 4 hours, maybe you cannot find the guide, because as you understand, it's a huge logistical operation. So there will be a reasonable time up to which the guide will wait. So if the pilgrims are keen on going with the guide, they should get ready and go with them as quickly as possible. And then, like I said, the baggage is collected separately and it will arrive up to the floor of the pilgrims. Then accommodation in Makkah, Amin Saab has already given you important aspects of it. I'll only cover those which is not mentioned there. So, so in Makkah, the entire building is hired for the Hajj pilgrim. So there you can see already the kitchen, washroom, and other norms are already told. And one important thing is that mostly there are different models in the past years. Last year, Zamzam bottles were given at the arrival for the pilgrim, because the year before they have also given Zamzam each day. So now we are assuming that mostly the bottles will be given soon after they arrive, within few days or within a reasonable time, and then they can use it. And whenever there is any issue with the building, because this is the building that pilgrims are going to stay for the large most part of their pilgrimage in KSA. So whenever there is a issue in the building, they should of course raise it with their state Hajj inspectors, Khadim al Hujjaj, formerly known as. Or another very easily accessible point is the Haris of the building. Usually the Haris of the building will be present there. So if there is any language issues, we insist on having an Indian Haris. But in case if there is any issue, there will be someone from the side of the Muallims also to help with. So the issues can be raised. And if it is not getting resolved, to remember the other slide where there is a mechanism for registering the complaints, and there are different escalation points like state Hajj inspectors, branches, etc. So facilities in Makkah, this is indicative. It also depends on the available buildings and Saudi regulations and several other factors. But we try to have a bus stop at every 300 meters. So then to Medina, the most important thing is Riyadul Jannah appointments. So once the appointment is made, again, there are only exact number of slots as the number of pilgrims. So once the appointments are made, the pilgrims has to adhere to the schedule and go as per the plan. If they misses the appointment, they won't get that opportunity again. Then once they go to the room, it is very important that they'll most likely get a room card, or they should memorize the location or the name of the building at least. Because in Haram, if you go to anyone and say that this is your building name, they'll show you the way to your hotel. So it is very important to memorize the room, and in order to avoid exhaustion, they should also remember the gate numbers, the nearest gate numbers to the hotel room, so that they don't take longer routes or waste time in traveling. So these are the things, and some of the things in transit, like I explained earlier, what usually happens is that most of the misplaced baggages happens because the tags are not there. So once you go to Medina, pilgrims, what they will do is that they will buy dates and other things, and they will make a separate bag without tag. And these bags are lost in transit. So to avoid this situation, the pilgrims should understand the constraint, and whatever baggage they take, and the Hajj committee, after they give the tags, they should not make additional baggage. They should try to put all their things in the same bag, so that there is minimal loss of baggage situation. Medical services, like I said, we'll have a separate session on that. Then coming to the main core Hajj period. So first of all, what you have to understand is that for all the pilgrims, the space is booked in Mina. Without booking the space, nobody can take a visa. But the issue is that there are real space constraints in Mina. And like already Amin Saab has explained, there you have to wait, and if you have given a train ticket, you have to, whenever the pilgrim gets the train ticket, they should wear it on the wrist then and there itself. Because once it is lost, first of all, it is very costly. The train tickets are very costly, and we will get the exact number of train tickets. So if it is lost, it is gone. They won't get train, and they won't have bus facility also, because these camps which are which are so-called train camps won't have the bus facility. So the pilgrims will again have face issues. Then Adahi coupon, if it is taken through Hajj Committee of India, it will be shared, and as you know, there will be the QR code where you can scan and see the status of the Qurbani. So these things also will be provided before departure to Mina. Then on Mina, one of the main things that you have to understand is that first day in Mina is one of the toughest days, because all the pilgrims will be there, and there are limited facilities. And as you know, the most critical issue on the first day is always the space issue. So even like Saudi authorities, the main bottleneck for increasing the number of pilgrims is space in Mina, and the sanitation facilities are very limited, and meal distribution may take time. So patience is very critical in this time. So then they should conserve their energy, because you know the main Hajj is Arafat, so they have to conserve their energy for the next day. Then the main day Arafat. So before the like mostly we have seen that pilgrims reach Arafat, and then always the pilgrims should try to travel in groups, and there are two train stations. So whatever wristband in the wristband, it will be clearly mentioned which is their train station. They have to use the exact train station, because if they use a separate train station, they won't reach their camp, because all these places are mirrored. Your camp in Mina is mirrored to your camp in Arafat. So if you board a different train station, you will land in a different camp, and you won't be able to access the camp. It is very critical that whatever train number is given to you, if given to the pilgrim, they have to adhere to that. Then these are the religious aspects of it, which you already know. Then Muzdalifah also, from Arafat, if they are having train tickets, they can get it. And as mentioned, sometimes moving pilgrims from Arafat to Muzdalifah happens in a very short time. So many a times the buses get stuck. So some pilgrims may not find the buses. Since it is evening, comparatively, it is slightly easier to walk, but still it's a very long journey. It's very difficult. So as much as possible, they should wait for the buses to return if they are, especially if they are having some health issues or having some issues. And there are high chances of getting separated. Like Amit have already explained, once separated, it is very difficult for the pilgrims to reunite before, like in Muzdalifah again. So these things should be taken care of. And again, there are only very limited sanitation facilities in Muzdalifah also, and they should be advised to carry some blankets or something which they can use. And another thing is that if a pilgrim is traveling by train, and if they get separated from the group, they should be advised to stay as close to the train station and take this train back and go back to Mina instead of.
आई जस्ट ऐड वन थिंग हियर, एक चीज मैं बताना चाहूंगा। जलील साहब का बड़ा एग्जॉस्टिव प्रेजेंटेशन हो रहा है। मुजदलफा में अगर आप अपने हाजियों को एक चीज बता सकें कि किसी भी प्रोसेस में, मुजदलफा नहीं बोल रहा मैं, अराफात भी है, मुजदलफा भी है, कहीं पे भी गुम हो, अपना पैनिक बटन ना दबाएं, डरे नहीं, फिर से मीना आने की कोशिश करें। जो प्रोसेस में फ्लो जा रहा है वो प्रोसेस में फ्लो जाते रहे। एक जगह अगर वो रुक गए, क्योंकि फ्लो आगे निकल जाएगा, वो वहां रुक जाएंगे। ये एक बड़ा लाइफ सेविंग चीज हो सकती है कि आप फ्लो के साथ चलते रहिए। आपको लोग राह में पानी पिलाने वाले भी मिल जाएंगे, आपको खाना खिलाने वाले भी मिल जाएंगे। अल्लाह सब तरफ से बरकत देता है। रुके नहीं और अपने वालों को ढूंढे नहीं, आगे चलते रहिए।
So again, coming back to then from Muzdalifah, once they reach back and start Jamrat movement. So though we, though the, if the even if the camps are located nearby, sometimes.
हेलो जी। जैसा कि आपको बताया जा चुका है कि ये सेशन बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट है, बराए करम इसको आप बिल्कुल लाइटली ना लें। मैं मानता हूं कि कुछ लोगों को, जो हिंदी भाषी लोग हैं, उनको थोड़ा-सा इसमें समझने में मैंने आपसे कहा थी कि इसके बाद में इंशाअल्लाह रहमान अमीन साहब हैं, हम लोग हैं। आपको जो भी पूछना है इंशाअल्लाह उसके जवाबात हम देंगे। इसको हम थोड़ा-सा अपनी तरफ से उसको, लेकिन ये इतना इम्पोर्टेंट सेशन है कि आप इसको बिल्कुल इग्नोर नहीं कर सकते हैं, प्लीज़।
Like we are aware of the language constraints, but like my Hindu is not that good, unfortunately. I can manage to speak, but what we can try to do is that I can understand Hindi, then of course English, Malayalam, Tamil, and there are other languages also. After this, we can have a small Q&A. You can.
एक तो लैंग्वेज समझ में नहीं आ रहा और दूसरा कि लैंग्वेज आवाज एकदम नहीं आ रही।
We'll address this here. Okay. This I'll try with this, yeah. So I'll use both, yeah. So one of the most important things is that like when the Jamrat movement starts, the main walkway, the pilgrims will be moving in one direction. So if you miss someone, if you try to go against the flow, that is when like untoward incidents happen, stampedes, or like you get injured and all. So it is very important that you have to move with the flow always. And there are different timings which is set by the Saudi authorities. So they have to adhere to those timings also. And if a pilgrim is feeling weak and if they are not able to proceed for Rami, it is a religious aspect and everyone will have their own opinion. But in the interest of health, they should try. They should delegate it to others who are with them. Yeah. Then finally, for Tawaf-e Ziyara, many pilgrims ask if they will get buses near the Jamrat. Buses are there, but it is not earmarked for any particular country. And sometimes the crowd is so much that even the buses doesn't move on time, or it is very difficult. So people usually make their own arrangements or walk to Haram. Yeah. Then after spending there, pilgrims come back. Then again, one fortunate thing is that the place where we take accommodation for pilgrims, it is closer to the Mashayar region. So usually it is easier to access, but because in case if the pilgrim is not able to find the bag, get the bus, there is an option for walking, which we don't encourage. But if it comes to that, they can even walk to the accommodation. It's not very far away. And then again, one another important aspect is that sometimes what pilgrims do is that when they go to the Mashayar, to Mina, they carry their entire luggage. They carry their check-in baggage or big bags. So it creates many issues. First of all, in Mina, the space is so less. So it is like hardly 1 square meter, less than 1 square meter. So they won't have place to keep their bags. So this become a big issue. Then if they travel heavy, their entire movement will get affected. Their movement to different places in case they are not able to find the tent, or if there are some issues, and if they get separated from the groups, it becomes very difficult for them to move. So traveling light is very important. Then finally, then coming to the last phase of Hajj, after at the time of departures, so airlines insist that their baggage will be collected 36 to 48 hours in Makkah and at least 16 hours in Medina, which can go up. So this is when the luggage is given by the pilgrims, and as I said, as already been mentioned, many a time what pilgrims do is that they take Zamzam with them, and the bags are opened. Though I can tell you that all these facilities where the bag is handled are manned by CCTV cameras, but once the bags are opened, then there are risks associated with it, and you will never know what happened to your bag. Something can happen in Saudi, something can happen in India. Though there are measures that are being taken, but to be on the safer side. Also, it is not a good experience for anyone if their personal bag is forcefully opened, and it is not a good experience. So after doing a pious holy journey, to have that experience towards the end of your journey is very difficult. It also affects your memory of that Hajj you have undertaken. So it is always good to adhere to the local norms, which is not to carry any Zamzam water inside the bags. So if at all there are additional baggages with the pilgrims, even the airlines won't allow carrying additional baggage. So they should send the baggage to India by courier, and it should be done at their own personal expenses. And if the pilgrim wants to depart early, again, which we don't recommend because we already have arrangements for charter flights. In case they want to depart early, they will have to take their own tickets and move. And if we have not done the Medina part of it, like in most cases, the accommodation will be difficult. That's it from my side. Thank you all.